a kid, 16, I started foot trimming. Went around different farms while we were doing chores at home. You'd get chores done and you'd go on the road with a box and a piece of plywood and a hammer and a chisel. Start making a few bucks. I think I was 16 years old I started that. Used to travel with Olin Bacon. He was a known foot trimmer in the area, a U.S. fellow. Learned foot trimming from him, and then I work at Hayes Farms in between milking cows. I go down and clip cows for a lot of the sales. Used to do a lot of night duty watching the cows at night there when they had big sales. So we were close to Hayes Farms. So that's kind of how I got started working out around for different breeders and, you know, working with people that had cows to sell, and then eventually got into selling and buying a few cattle and kind of supported part of the income that way with the cows. And then I eventually had my own cows, showline herd, bought quota from my dad and milked cows at home in Burlington for 10 years. I sold them in '86. That was showline Holsteins, and from there on I had foot trimmed again and did some cow fitting around the world, I guess. Many different countries, U.S. mainly, Mexico, Canada. Well, when I was younger, like it was at Hayes Farms, like Tom Hayes, Harris Wilcox was auctioneer. R.J. Rutherford was a fitter there, and Ed Miss Campbell, you might not have heard of him. Yeah, he's a little older, but he was the top dog fitter in those days. That's back in the 60s, I guess he would be, and that's when I learned how to clip with those guys. And later on, when we started selling cows, Herbie Dickinson, your neighbor there, he was quite an influence on me. Great guy. Yeah, always treated everybody the same and learned a lot of how to treat people and buy and sell cows with him. But anyway, some of the herds and friends, of course, along with the herds, like Jeff Nurse and Monteith Holsteins there, and Brock and John Gillies, Valley River, Jimmy Dunton and Jeff, Bill Woodall, Woodfield. Actually, Jim Dunton and Jeff, there's 5 generations living there of men, right from the grandpa there, down Ralph to Jimmy's youngest one. There's 5 of them. Hank and Carolyn Van Axel from California, XL's Dairy. They worked with them for over 30 years, back and forth, selling and buying cows, showing cows. Harry Weir did Holsteins in Wisconsin. We did a lot with him, buying and selling cows. And Billy Gibson, my favorite brother-in-law, Willette there, he's helped me a lot too. And my family, of course, Patricia and the rest of the family. Les Sharp, Dave Thompson was a great fellow. Had cows with him for quite a while. And Bruce and Chris Loach, New Lisford area. Great folks. I always stayed with them when we were buying cows and helped me out that way. So those are a few. And Bert Stewart, he and I had cows together years ago. Airway Holsteins, his prefix was. Anyway, that's kind of some of the herds that we worked with and still work with. Oh, and Judy and Paul Russworth. Some of the highlights of the sales that I was managed during my career was Glen Afton Farms, Roybrook, Oak Ridges, Pickland, and those were a few of the major sales in those days that I managed and looked after. Well, I think I always kind of liked the red and whites. They weren't real popular for some time, but we had a heifer, I think her name was Showline Ned Candy. And I had a couple cows that had the red factory I owned with Bert, and I had them at home, and she happened to pop out a red Ned, and Gary Darling bought her. And I believe she was honorable mention All-American, showing in with the black ones. That's before they had a red show. So I kind of lit up a little bit on that and tried to breed the red after that. And then of course I got to be friends with Johnny Gillies and Valley River. And Red Man popped out there, a red bull out of all black ancestry other than triple threat granddam was red. So we liked the bull and we thought, well, there wasn't a whole lot of available AI for red then, and we thought we had as good a family as there was, and we used the bull, and he turned out to be a great bull. I have him on the wall there. That's his first proof when he came out. I think he was listed as number 17 overall sires when he did come out originally. And of course had many famous daughters and did a lot of people a lot of good. High fat bull, good udders.
Got it. Yeah.
And then the son of his was Contender, and he did sired a lot of show winners and great cows to breed from. And the influence is still there today. When we went to Madison, I mean the intermediate champion I believe was a Red Man, and reserve was a Contender. Yeah, so Contender, he's been premier red sire at a lot of shows. So we were pretty thrilled when the Red Man came out the first time. A couple units wanted to buy him, but I said to Johnny Gillis, I said, well, they want to give you $4,500 for the bull. I said, one day we'll sell a calf for more than you're getting for that bull. And we did. So that's how that all got going. I started to wear the engineer's hat, and I got here that the day Red Man was born, I started to wear that hat. So yeah, so there we go. And my old buddy, Ed Miscampbell, always wore that hat. And the guys always wore those soft brimmed hats years ago, because when they milk cows, they wouldn't tip off when you leaned up against the old cow.
Yeah.
They were soft, or they'd slip them around to the side. So that's how those hats got going in the cow business. So, yeah, like a great improvement in the type in cattle. You know, I said, years ago, if you had good management, they had heifers that give 20,000, 25,000. The milk is fine, but hasn't changed a lot. I think if the management was there, the milk would have been there in those days as well. But the type has certainly improved, especially at the shows, because there's 10 in the top 10 that you could start with and give reasons for, and everybody be satisfied when you go home. You know, over the years, it's really improved and got the depth of the class type is excellent. As far as machinery is unbelievable too. It changed in the machinery tech and the business, you know, to eliminate that manual labor to save the body. I mean, it's amazing the equipment they have these days. Buying and selling, like, I guess years ago it was easier to sell that typey cow, you know, there were more of them, and all the countries in the world they envied the Canadian Holstein. So they wanted the genetics, and they have them now. And it's proven that the Canadian genetics in every country seem to be the ones that do the best around the world. And the thing is, everybody has what we have, so there's not as much difference as we used to have. You know, with the embryo and AI. So the world's kind of catching up to what we have. So little inklings that something was happening before we got to the Royal, you know, but yeah. But it was quite a humbling experience at the time, and you know, quite proud to be part of it, and one of the members of the Curtis Clark Awards with the rest of the guys. And when I shook hands all down the row, I thought, well, you know what? I've either shared a show alley with every one of those guys, I've either judged them, fitted with them, trimmed feet for them, owned cows with them, or bought and sold from them. Every one that was in the line, I felt part of the award right there. So it wasn't really, after the award you realize more of it, you know, for yourself than that particular moment. Yeah. It takes a while to sink in. Yeah. And then, of course, it was quite a thing to get the award from my best friend Jeff Nurse. So I was pretty tickled with that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to giving it to the next guy this year. Free advice isn't worth a heck of a lot. Anyway, there'd be a couple things that, well, I just personally I would do myself. It would be to join the 4-H club at as early an age as you can and be social with your agricultural people in the county. Go to school, get a skill, in case you know, we need a side job while you're farming or things don't work out. You got a job. Take time to get educated, I would say, and you know, be able to have a plan. I don't know who can see the future, but look down the road, and I would say keep a journal, a daily journal. One of them ones that's been there and done that journal that you can refer to in the future. Look back, see what you did that made sense and didn't make sense, and it's quite a nice thing to have a journal to be able to look back on and read what you did in the past, because like me, I can't remember it all. So those would be a few things I would say. If I was to describe myself, which I have a hard job doing that.
No problem.
But anyway, I don't know what I'd say there. I'd have to think about that. I'd rather have somebody else describe me and then I could agree with it or not agree.